Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. From Asthma Core Studios near Detroit, Michigan, it's Unregimented.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
And now, here are your hosts.
Oh, have you guys seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet?
No, it's, well, I guess it's out today. Yeah, I'm going to go see it this weekend, definitely.
I watched it like 2-3 days ago, man, online.
Oh, yeah? Because it came out last week overseas.
I mean, yeah, it was a bootlegged version, but it looked well for a bootleg version, but yeah, I just figured, fuck it, I better see it, because if not, you guys are going to see it and want to talk about it. And here I thought I was seeing it behind schedule. Figures.
Oh yeah, no, it comes out officially.
Just tell me this, Rich.
Friday
did you like it?
Yeah, I did, and I will say this: there's a lot more character development with people besides Star-Lord than I thought there was going to be. I was actually kind of shocked. So
that's good, because that's what Marvel lacks most of all. They kind of expect you to come with the characters pre-developed in your head. And I'm like, that's not good enough for a story. I don't care if I'm going to go see a person that I've seen, in that costume, a couple dozen times by now.
Well,
I would say know who that character is, and you need to tell me through your story.
The character if they keep up what they did from the first one to the second one, in the second one to the third one, or their appearance in whatever Infinity War, Drax is the one. Drax, that's right? Drax the Destroyer.
Yeah, Drax the Destroyer. He seems to be getting a lot of the lines in the previous.
He's the one that has the most character development in my mind.
Yeah,
like that you see an actual growth. So if they keep that up, that's pretty cool.
And
his character was kind of one-dimensional.
I mean, you're expanding
so David
the team.
Bautista learned to act since the last one. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
You've got Mantis. We're going to find out about Star-Lord's father. It looks like Yondu is going to play a major part in this one, too. And if you don't know, he was one of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, actually. Kind of a different character from the one that, what's his name, plays? Merle.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're expanding a lot, too. It seems rather audacious. I guess I'm heartened to hear that there is a lot of character development in there, because that's what I was fearing, that this would be the movie. Usually the sequel is the one where you can go, well, we did all the character development in the first one. Now it's just all spectacle because we have to outdo ourselves in the last one, and it looks like they're going to outdo themselves in that respect and still keep the same solid script that made the first one what I think is going to be a classic of the superhero genre.
It's only 7:30 here. I could technically go catch a midnight show.
I could probably catch one right now, actually, too.
I will say this. I don't think it's any spoiler alert or anything. I don't think so, because I believe they gave this away. I knew it before I ever watched the movie, that Kurt Russell is Star-Lord's father. Like, I thought they made it clear.
When he was cast, I was like, oh, well, no duh. That's his father.
I thought Yondu was his dad. Or was he just sent to get him?
Yeah.
I took away the wrong impression from the ending of that movie.
He was
like the surrogate.
He kind of raised him. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, from the comic book, I knew from the comic book, I knew Ego as the living planet.
As up on the story as you guys are.
And the living
movie has told me.
The living planet in the comic book literally has a face and all that. And so I was like, how the fuck are they going to do that? So unless something's happened in the comic book, they've turned Ego into a
I don't know that Ego's gotten a lot of play. I think that there's probably a lot of comic book readers younger than you and I just going, oh, what the fuck is this Ego the Living Planet shit?
Then I will say this, and it's just a teaser. Sam Lee's cameo, who he cameos with in his scene, that might be the biggest nod to old school comic fans that I've seen in any of these Marvel movies. Because I was like, oh, get the fuck out of here. That's not who I think. That sure as shit is who I think it is. And I don't want to spoil it for nobody that's an old school comic fan, or even, because I don't know. This character still might play a somewhat known role in the Marvel universe. I'm not sure, but it was definitely like, oh shit. Kind of like when you saw Howard the Duck in the after credit scenes of the first one. You're like, oh shit. You know, that's some deep cut nerd shit. That's not exactly, Captain America and Iron Man, I bet you there's people out there that don't even know Howard the Duck came from Marvel Comics.
Marvel loves their Easter eggs, although, I don't know that there were a lot of those in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It seems to me it would have the least amount of Easter eggs.
Well, it's more along the lines of like,
because you're dealing with not known characters, not widely known characters.
Yeah, it's like with the Scree and the Crawl and all that, and like those were always way second.
See some Shi'ar, man.
Yeah, I want to
see some big bird feathered heads.
Like those were always way, way, way peripheral characters in the comic books I read. So I knew of them basically from the Phoenix Saga, like the team that went up against the X-Men. I knew the Shi'ar more than the others. I wasn't a big like Avengers reader or anything, so yeah, I'm with you there. I didn't know. I knew of them. Like you pick up a Marvel index somewhere and go, oh, so that's the backstory on that. I don't even know who Captain Marvel is. What the fuck is this shit? Yeah.
Hey,
but yeah,
we should do introductions real quick, but.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I'm Rich.
You are listening to Unregimented.
On the Christopher Network. Episode, 182? Did we lose Chris?
Shit, sorry. No, I had my mic off.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you're still there.
Yeah, episode 183. That's where we're at, not 182.
Oh, someone going to have to die at 187?
No. Well, first of all, we're not police, so.
It's true. Well, yeah, and I'm Chris.
And I'm Aaron.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm Rich.
Yeah,
yes. In case you forgot.
We were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. I think we're all going to... I know Chris is probably going to see it pretty soon. Hopefully by next week we can do... I'm ready to go full spoilers because everyone's going to see this fucking movie.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Dropping hints. Like, listen, you got a week, buddy.
Speaking of the previews for things that we haven't seen yet, there was a couple that were kind of interesting. Did you see the Defenders preview?
No.
That Netflix put out? I
haven't seen that yet.
It was kind of interesting, just the fact that Netflix put out a trailer for a limited series. But it definitely looks cinematic.
Netflix is putting out a movie tomorrow in the theaters, and it is a mystery movie, and the only thing they'll tell you about it is the chick from The Big Bang Theory is in it. I saw that
which one?
Walking upstairs.
Which one?
The Netflix is releasing a mystery movie tomorrow in theaters.
Which chick?
You said the chick, yeah. Rich
Kaylee Cuoco, or however the hell you say her name.
Okay, the blonde?
The hot. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the hot one, yes. Well,
is she the hot
one?
The
one who was in True Blood's kind of hot. The short one with the huge rack.
Don't they downplay her, though? Like in the... I don't know, I don't watch The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah, they cover those up. It's a travesty. They cover them up
they
big time.
Put glasses on her.
I seen True Love.
Hollywood
True
ugly.
Blood. I know they're there.
You know what? Whatever. I don't mind glasses. You know what I'm saying? So
same here.
That's just a target for me. I'm good.
Oh, come on.
2 targets right next to each other.
Hey, man, whatever. Just because a guy reads comic books, he can't jack off on a chick's face? Come on, man.
I thought that was a pro jacking off in a chick's face comment. Who are you, Louis C.K.?
No, I know. Despite what Jamie Kennedy might think, no.
Yeah. Or doesn't he just like to have chicks watch him jerk off?
Yeah. That's the accusation. He whipped out his dick in a crowd, in a room full of people, and started jerking it. Which, I don't know, man. Comedians, they're fucking a different breed. Seriously, if there was guys in the room, I would say he went way overboard for a laugh, as well as women. If it was just him and a woman, yeah, that's some creepy shit. That's some shit. You don't whip your dick out until she asks you.
Wait, who are we talking about now?
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. did this?
Allegedly. All of this is allegedly. Yeah, allegedly he's been caught spanking it, or he just whipped out his dick and started going to town on himself in front of a female comedian. But I don't know. Like I said, was it one of those after the show everybody was drunk and he did it for a laugh type thing, or was it?
I knew guys like that in high school that would just.
Oh yeah, dude, I was at a bachelor party. We were on the fucking bus going to the strip club, and we'd been pre-gaming, and one of the guys just whips out his dick, lays it out, and goes, "Hey, check out my piercing." And I'm like, Jesus, I did not need to know that about you, dude. Put your pants back on, white boy. You know.
I hate to ask a question, but I gotta know: was he hard?
The guy whipped his dick out.
Yeah, did he whip it out hard?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't even.
I'm all right with that.
It didn't look fluffed, so of course we started giving him shit for it. And then the argument became, "I'm a grower, not a shower." And I think by the end of the night, he regretted pulling it out. I think.
Shocking. Well, I could see Louis C.K. Doing the whole thing. You know how famous I am? I could do this right now, and I won't get in trouble for it. Just pulls it out, starts spanking it in a room full of people.
Right. Yeah, I bet you that is how it played out. I can totally picture that now.
That's what I'm saying. I need the I never thought I would say these words strung together into a sentence. I need the context of how Louis C.K. pulled his dick out. I mean, there's a difference between doing it in a room full of people and doing it when a chick is standing there and you're having a conversation and you just, you were saying about your dad? Oh, don't mind this. Go ahead. I mean, there's a whole world of difference there.
Hate your dad? Check this out.
when you just hang your tackle out and then you just like reach up so your shirt lifts up and it uncovers it very slyly.
Sound like you've done this before.
Well, it's a thing. I've never tried it.
This is the total difference between men and women, because if Whitney Cummings had done this to a guy comedian, that would be an epic story. Like, dude, seriously, she just fucking pulled down her shit and started going to town on herself, man. Like,
yeah. Well, first of all, she could just cross her legs and have an orgasm, and nobody would know the difference.
Okay, am I missing that one?
Well, chicks can have orgasms without they can more easily have covert orgasms.
Oh well, yeah, because they don't have to clean up afterwards.
Right.
It's not like they're shooting eggs out of that thing every time they come.
That would be awful. There's already enough shit flying around the bedroom.
Hey, as Patrice O'Neill said, though, if they did ejaculate eggs when they came, we would let them do it on our face, and we wouldn't call our friends and be like, "Oh, she disrespected me." We'd be like, "Nah, man, she just shot like 5 eggs on my face. Yep, I deserved it too."
Trying to catch them in your mouth.
Aren't we in an area that's usually reserved for the end of the podcast? We're just going right out of the gate.
Well, we didn't want to tell you. We've been going for 2 hours, so you came in at the end, Chris.
That's what she said.
Well, okay, so you want to talk some serious shit?
No,
there's some serious shit going on.
I said I think we might be doing this for a reason. We're just kind of avoiding the landmines. That is all of the shit that's going on.
Well, maybe because we started with some absurd, stupid shit, we can have an absurd, stupid conversation about the nonsense that's going on, because this is the only way I can describe it, really.
This is such nonsense, and I just want to preface this talk, because obviously this all centers around Trump. And this guy is clearly I know this is not shocking news, but this guy is clearly not a leader of any sort. This is a despot who has figured out how to hack the American voter, and all of his agenda items are based on people's fears and people's desires to control others, and also a desire to not want to pay for anybody else in this country, even though I don't know where you think all of your tax dollars go, other than paying
clearly
for shit other than paying for shit that other people use.
This is clearly someone who is in over his head. This is someone who, when he interviewed for the job, was hoping he wasn't going to get the job, and then, oh shit, I got the fucking job.
Nobody knew it was going to be so hard.
I could think of 43 other dudes who could tell you the other.
Everybody in the world knows that this is a hard job except for you. Well, so the big issue was healthcare this week. They finally got the votes together to get it approved, and they did so by giving in to conservative hardliners who wanted to see the provision for pre-existing conditions removed from the healthcare bill. Their compromise was to allow states to remove provisions from the healthcare bill, including the one protecting people against pre-existing conditions, or from being discriminated against because of pre-existing conditions, I should say.
Isn't it? I just have to point out the obvious irony in all this. Most really hardline conservative people tend to skew a little bit older. Do these people not realize that they're going to have pre-existing conditions here sooner rather than later?
Well, it's funny that you should mention that, because they did, in some of the changes that they made in order to get this thing passed, actually exempt themselves as congressmen from the
Shocking.
bill. It would leave in place their government-funded, taxpayer-funded health care untouched while fucking over most of the rest of the nation.
This is like when the smoking ban in Michigan went through, except for in the state-owned casinos. Mm-hmm. Because then they didn't want to take a chance that their revenue was going to take a hit from people going, well, fuck you. If I can't smoke while I'm gambling, I'm not fucking going. So that's the only exclusion in that smoking ban. And so this is straight gangster shit. This is... Can we just, like, who's running, like, the Lucchese or Lucchese, whatever, one of the five families? Can we just elect them president, and that way we can finally just have a gangster in there for real? Because these motherfuckers are just wannabe gangsters.
Yeah, well, too, look what they did earlier in the week with the spending plan. Like, what have we been hearing for the last few months to a year? Congress can't agree on anything. Shit, man, when it came to their paychecks being threatened, oh shit, look who's getting along. Look who can agree on something. Mm-hmm. It's the same group.
Yeah, well, I also think that was strategic by the Democrats, who were holding out on just about anything, any compromise, in order to push it to the limit so that people would say, hey, look, you want to complain about all these government shutdowns because you couldn't work with the Democratic Congress. You can't work with yourselves, is the impression that the Democrats wanted to come across. And I think that actually worked quite well.
Do they think we're dumb? The government has shut down under the last three presidents who have been from both parties.
Right, and it changed our lives zero.
Exactly.
I'm all for a government shutdown, actually. I'm not saying that I don't appreciate some of the services that the government provides, but that's if you want less government, well, that's a whole lot less government.
Yeah, well, the problem is the government, the quote-unquote government shutdowns, all they shut down is any service that can be used by its own people. The military isn't recalled back. They don't stop fucking making tanks. They don't stop paying military contractors.
Yeah, your bills don't stop racking up just because you shut the government down. It doesn't change how much needs to get spent on anything. It's it's like trying to save on your heat bill by turning your heat off in the middle of winter every hour and then turning it on full blast for another hour.
That's a damn good analogy, because that's exactly what it's like.
You know, if you just left it alone, you'd have even heat throughout and you'd have the same amount spent.
Yeah, it's grandstanding, isn't it? Isn't that basically what it boils down to? So politicians can say to their constituents, I did this, I took a stand. I mean, and even the Democrats say,
and also point out the fact that, you know, if you don't like what Congress is doing, then you're going to have choices coming up pretty soon. And when they passed this health care bill finally with zero Democratic support, and they had all this fight that they had to go through to get it passed was all amongst their own party. When they finally got it passed, I heard a little snippet of it on the radio, actually. They had audio from the passing of it. And as soon as they call out the vote and do the little gavel thing, they'll wrap that gavel up, this roar comes and it sounds like cheering. It was almost, I thought I was listening to like English Parliament, you know, where everybody gets loud.
Robber.
And I was like, wow, they are really pumped about this, getting this passed. And that didn't jive with me, because I was like, if they had to struggle to get the number of votes from their own party to do this by themselves, why was everybody that excited at the end? Then when I heard the full audio and the description of what actually happened, that was Democrats starting a chant of na, hey, goodbye, saying outright to the Republicans, all of your names are on this bill and you're all going down, or at least a good portion of you, from those people who are going to lose their health care and they're going to vote you out of office because of it.
How's that attitude been working for you, Democrats? I'll just ask that question.
Well, you know, I
how's
thought
that attitude been working for you?
That was, I did think it rather childish until I was reminded of, I'd forgotten this, but this was in response to, if you want to prove that Democrats hold grudges, I can't remember who it was, but there was a senator during Clinton's presidency that had a pivotal vote for something, and the Republicans were mad at her, and when the vote passed, they all sang directly to her, not to the Democrats, but directly to that one senator, the same chant. And she did indeed lose her seat the following election.
You know, they
can hold a grudge all they want, but let's count how long the Republicans have been in power the last 20 years.
The only reason I mentioned that is because it didn't make the chant of goodbye as childish as an act as I originally took it, when I realized that it was in response directly to behavior that, I mean, I know it's
something from 20 years ago that makes it even more childish.
No, I think it's appropriate. It's
really 20 years later. It's appropriate.
Yeah, it's a callback.
Come on, man.
Because it's a callback to say, remember what happened to this person based on their vote? You're next. That's the message that they wanted to send with that. And that
attitude's been working out so well since 2010 for them.
I don't see. What I'm saying is, with more information, I realized it wasn't an attitude thing. It wasn't a childish lashing out or teasing of the other side. It was a direct message that wasn't for you or I, the voter. It was directly for the Republicans who are voting on this, who the Democrats believe are going to lose a lot of seats based on this vote. And
the same group that thought Hillary was going to win in November? The same group that was so sure Hillary was going to be our next president? Good luck with that, Democrats.
I
heard another story this week that if the election were held again, Donald Trump would still win. So I don't know where they're getting this hubris from.
Because once people lose health care, they're not going to vote for the same Republican again. That's what they're basing this on.
George Bush got elected twice.
Yeah, but
Donald Trump won.
When you're one of your mainstay issues, one of the pillars of your campaign was repeal and replace Obamacare with something fabulous, gold-plated, that'll last forever, never need recharging, and cost you next to nothing. And when you actually get that done, it results in higher healthcare prices, and people in states especially, I mean, if you want to talk about leaving it up to the states to decide if they want to enforce the part of the bill that says that people can't be discriminated against because of pre-existing conditions, you're going to find that your red states are going to be the ones more likely to get rid of that provision. And so you'll have more voters in red states that are going to lose their health care and that are going to vote based on that. Not just because they lost their health care, but because they were told that they wouldn't, that they would pay less, and that it would be better, and they found all three things to be false.
I guess you're acting like this is the first time the government has lied. Like a president has...
What does that mean? I'm talking about... How
I think the average Trump voter is going to be like, hey, I think the average Trump voter is going to be like, hey, he repealed and replaced it, just like he said he was. Next. I think you're giving the base too much credit here, man.
Look, I'm stating beliefs. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not saying this is what is going to happen. But to think that nobody's going to lose their seat based on this vote is naive when we've seen this happen throughout history of elected people in this country, everywhere.
Yes, but I just
think
it's
do people get fuck up and still get reelected? Yes. Do idiots like Trump who have no business being in the Oval Office in the first place manage to get to the presidency? Yes. But there is one thing that is also consistent, and that's when you clearly run on one issue and leave the voters that put you in office with the opposite results, you're not going to get reelected. It's not going to happen. And if it does, it's going to be because of something way bigger than that. It would take World War III, and Trump's the only guy who can get us out of it.
I was just going to bring that up. I was like, the other thing, though, here is with the Republican base, all you got to do is bomb some brown people, they're back on your side. And we're super close to it. In fact, we've already done it twice, right?
Right. But you do have limited returns on that behavior as well. There's only so many times that you can bomb somebody to change the subject before people start catching on to that as well.
Well,
or
George
before
Bush got
you
two
start
terms out of it.
He had extended wars. That's what I'm saying. Like, Bill Clinton was criticized as bombing Kosovo in order to change the subject from the scandal that he was currently going through. And, I'll put my tinfoil hat on and say, maybe there's something there. Maybe Kosovo also deserved to be bombed. Maybe it was rather convenient that those two things aligned.
Well, all I know is that eventually we're going to run out of these little third world countries to bomb whenever our president gets himself in a pickle. Or eventually we're going to bomb somebody who's going to go, hey, fuck you, and we're going to be in real shit because there's going to be real repercussions. We can't just keep treating our world like the world like our own personal fucking keychain to rattle at our dog with ADD when we want to get its attention.
Right. I mean, you're certainly not going to. You're not going to gain support by starting multiple wars. I mean, sure, if we got into extended conflict with North Korea, that would be something that would be easily justifiable. This is somebody that is seen not only as an enemy for decades, but also run by a tyrant.
Well, let me ask you a question.
It's people in poverty. So, but if you if you decide that every time that somebody tweets something that you don't like, or somebody portrays you on SNL again, that you're just going to lob one over into Syria. There's only so many times you can do that before you're in conflict with Syria, and probably therefore Russia as well.
Well, no, man. If there's one thing the public has proven to us in the last year, they have a very selective memory.
It's out of sight, out of mind, guys. It's the same reason. Excuse me. It's the same reason people bitch about their tax dollars going towards welfare, but they don't give a fuck about our tax dollars that are spent out of their fucking line of sight.
Right. But this is why healthcare will stick.
I never hear people bitching about it.
Out of sight, out of mind can apply to something that happens overseas. Something that maybe you and nobody else that you know has to go over and accomplish for you. But out of sight, out of mind doesn't work when you continue to have no health care and continue to have a pre-existing condition that causes you to spend a lot of your money either on private health care or buying prescriptions over the counter. That's why this issue is going to stick. You can't just tuck it away and forget about it. You're going to remember next election that rolls around that so-and-so took away your health care, and now you're fucked, and you're going to vote different. Yes, Chris, you're going to. What do you mean, how are you? How Chris, can you not? You still don't have health care.
I gotta side with Aaron on this one, man. This is one of those things that people at the time might not think it affects them, but when it starts to affect them, that's why I didn't say anything one way or the other about the Democrats. Nah, hey, goodbye. Because I was sitting there and I was thinking, I'm like, and when you told me that it was a callback to something that happened before, I'm like, okay, all right. But I think the real point is they probably did it and I'm sorry, I do think it's childish. I don't give a fuck if it is a callback. But I think they did it to mark in people's minds who are paying attention. These are the fuckers who did it to you. Don't come after us. It was 217 to 213. Okay? The 217 that voted to take the shit away from you, those are the ones you need to fucking deal with. Because I'm telling you, man, a lot of people fucking seem to think, just from talking just to random people about it in healthcare, people I work with, friends, family, whatever, that everybody else is going to get their shit revoked except for them. That they're going to be perfectly fine. And that is I look at them and I go, do you know one of the markers of a crazy person is they don't think they're crazy. Everybody else is crazy. Now I'm drawing a correlation between a crazy person and you. Why do you think you're special? You're not. You're just another number to the government. Literally, you are a social security number to them. That's it. You're not going to be protected. They're not going to look at your voting record and say, oh, they've always voted right down the line Republican. They don't get their health care cut.
And it's been since probably the invention of the automobile, one of the major issues that voters vote on is the price of gas. The fuck? How much control do you think the president really has over the price of gas when it's a basically unregulated market that is driven by supply and demand? Yes, there are trade, rules and other things that, whether they choose to import or drill locally, that the government can do, and they can subsidize it, whatever. But ultimately, it's a supply and demand business, and there's only so much supply, and prices will continue to fluctuate, but go up as they fluctuate,
and no
matter who's in office.
Real quick, let's not forget, as we sit here and debate whether the American public has even shorter of an attention span than we assume, 2010 is only 7 years ago, and that's when the Tea Party come in and shook everything up. And I've been saying this since the election. The Democrats are ripe for someone to come in on the left and get a Tea Party like movement going. And this is now this is an issue that
Jill Stein. I mean,
who the fuck knows?
You want to talk about the lack of leaders in the Democrats? What about outside of there? There's nobody.
But if you let me finish, what I was going to say is this gives them a rallying cry, a flag to plant in the sand and go, this is what we're fighting for.
Right.
They took this from you. Come join with us. I mean, it's really like I said, politics is getting more and more like entertainment and sports the older I get. And I don't know if it's always been that way or I'm just starting to notice it. But It really is pick a side and just root for your side blindly.
Right. Yeah, and that was
For a
another
lot
thing
of
that I was
projects,
thinking
not everything.
about this week, actually, is how many voters, I was just imagining in my mind, vote with that mentality, whether it's either I want to be on the winning team or I want to root for the underdog. And you can make cases for both of those attitudes in a Trump voter.
But some people just blindly always just vote for their party. My dad used to make fun of my grandma, tell her that if Adolf Hitler ran as a Democrat, she'd vote for him. You know, and I had a couple other aunts that were just like that. And it doesn't matter, Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. There's something that's out there still on both sides.
It is.
Yeah.
And that percentage is always going to be there. So that's the percentage that politicians know they don't even have to fucking pander to. Those are people that just picked a side and they're just going to vote straight down the party line. So they know they got them in their pocket. It's the people who don't feel a connection to either party, which I would like to think, and from a lot of polls and everything I've been reading and hearing over the years, it's the people who don't adhere to any one party who actually would probably want to start a third, fourth, fifth party is getting larger and larger. And those are the people they know they got to win over. Apathetic people and people who vote down the party line, they're done. You're not going to change their mind.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, as a party, as we've seen now, we can barely nobody can really even get to 10% to even get on the debate stage at this point. But I still think that the right person could change all of that. I don't know what that right person would say, what their message would be, or what they would be like.
That's pretty scary that we're just sitting here waiting for some sort of savior to ascend from the heavens and fucking we're just rearranging deck chairs in the Titanic until it happens, going, come on, there's got to be someone somewhere.
I imagine he's got a long red flowing cape and a curly Q on his forehead and a big S on his chest.
It was
for the left. He can't be white.
Well, no, what I was going to say is it'd be ironic
Jesus.
It'd be ironic if it was an illegal alien that turned out to save America. Right. You know, someone who came here and wasn't naturalized. He just happened to land in Kansas.
Excuse me, Rich. Undocumented, please.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Well, he can't be president then.
He's Superman. Who's going to stop him?
That's true.
Which is, I mean, it's just a random thought. I when I was a kid, I used to think that, especially, I think it was Superman 2 when Zod and them went to the White House. I was like, why doesn't Superman just beat the president's ass and take over? Who's going to stop him? He's like, hey, Zod, his crew is gone,
homie. And superheroes. When I was a kid, I had the same thoughts too. Like, why doesn't every one of these books end with the hero ends up being the ruler of the world?
Because that's why they're the hero, man. They're for the people.
But especially Superman. Hey, I'm president now. Hey, now I'm prime minister of Canada. Hey, by the way, now I'm president of Mexico. We're just going to continue on.
To comic books' credit, especially I think starting with the Dark Knight series by Frank Miller, they did start exploring things like that, and I think with Watchmen also. As the 80s went on, I think they started that a lot more.
Yes, 100% with you on that. Also, it still continues because that's the plot of Injustice, the video game and comic book based on the video game, which is Superman snaps when Joker kills Lois Lane and decides that the whole world needs to be under his control.
Oh, shit, that is, isn't it? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And that's also a running theme through the X-Men comic books, is that's the reason they want to keep mutants down. Is not only is it an allegory for like homosexuals, whatever, mutants, marginalized people from society, but it's also, oh shit, what if they decide to rise up and organize, behind someone like Magneto? We're fucked. There's really nothing we can do, So that's been a running theme for quite a long time, at least 2-3 decades. Right,
because no matter how many good deeds the X-Men did, no matter how many times they saved the world, there was always going to be the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants or other organizations that were also mutants, groups of mutants. And the general populace just can't tell the difference. That all mutants are bad. They blow shit up, and not in my backyard.
Yeah, and I do remember in my comic book store days having a discussion about the difference between someone like the X-Men versus the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. Avengers and Fantastic Four save the world, and it's in a newspaper. The X-Men save the world, and no one hears about it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, almost the discussion kind of went to is, do you think they're trying to say, like, slip it in that there's a media blackout and they don't want people that are doing good to the public to know that? And I'm like, we're overthinking comics way too much, guys.
No, but that is actually in the text of X-Men books that I read when I was a kid. The chunk of I started reading X-Men the latter half of the Chris Claremont run, which started when I was basically born, so I had some catching up to do. And this was during the period where X-Men saved the world, possibly the universe, for the umpteenth time. Only this time, part of the procedure of them saving the world was going through the Siege Perilous. And the Siege Perilous was this huge diamond thing that they would walk through and have new lives on the other side. And nobody in the world would know not only that any of this happened, that the X-Men saved the world, but they wouldn't even know that the X-Men ever existed. The world would forget their existence, and they go to Australia, they live in the outback, and even when they do show up in public, they can't be captured on camera. So they are invisible to the world.
Yeah, I remember that storyline, that story arc, now that you bring it up. Yeah.
Yep.
Because the transporter, or the guy who would transport him would swing the thing over his head, and they go through the portal. And
yeah, that's where they find is it the Reavers that are there? The half cyborg people that showed up in the Logan movie. I think they're the Reavers. Sorry, give me 1 sec. My mic's buzzing again. I thought I fixed this. Okay, there we go. Gateway?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. I was struggling to remember his name. It's been 30
the
years.
Aboriginal man who he didn't speak. He just sat up on the mountain in his loincloth and then would spin his rock around and open a portal to wherever he wanted to take you, I guess. So just real quick, I just want to say on the healthcare thing, I think this is a real. I mean, I've said this before about some of the shit Trump's pulled. He is really flirting with like the abyss on this one, I think, because if it he doesn't even know what he wants.
If it goes the way Chris, you said that you think it would go down, people with short attention spans, they'll forget it by the time the midterm elections happen, let alone the next presidential election, then hey, man, he's the fox that got in and out of the hen house and didn't get caught. But if people do fucking remember and they do hold a hard on for him about it, Republicans could have a not too nice next couple of years once the midterm elections come and go.
Right. At the very least, if Trump gets away from this clean, he's going to leave the stink on Paul Ryan.
Well, that's the other thing. There's always the pass the buck.
Right. Well, let's not forget that this vague version. Actually, nobody's seen this as far as I know. All the information on this bill has been leaked, and it's kind of atrocious. Not only that we have our representatives voting on legislation that they haven't fully read, but that is not available to the public. That's some bullshit. But also, even the Republicans are saying this is not what the final bill is going to look like. It's going to go to the Senate. The Senate's going to have ideas. They're going to change shit up so much that it's got to go back to the House and be voted on again. So this turd is coming back for a second round just to make sure its stink stays on you for the next 2 years.
Well, if it passed through the House, then it's still got to go through the Senate.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The Senate can make changes, and if the changes that they make are drastic enough, they have to go back to the House to vote on it again.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Who knows how many times this shit merry-go-round will spin before everybody gets smeared.
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think is percentage of hardcore Trump believers, like the true Trump believers that think that, oh, he's truly an outsider, or thought this at least when they voted for him, he's truly an outsider, he won't get in there and play the political game. How many of them do you think still believe that shit?
See, I think that there's a higher percentage of the Trump voters that understand, or at least believe they understand what he is, but also believe him to be enough, to be malleable enough to get what they want done. And they understand that, maybe they understand that Trump has no agenda of his own other than power. He has no faith of his own. He may profess it like any politician does, any recent politician, but I would argue that he's probably the least religious president that we've had, maybe even the one who's been to church the least.
Oh, definitely. I said a few months ago, I said, congratulations, Christian Republicans who voted for Trump. You just put in the closest thing to an open atheist in the office we've ever had.
Right. But if he's going to give you, well, like he did this week, he's going for a run at religious liberty with I'm losing the word for it, his presidential decree, where he signs it and then holds
the executive order, yeah.
The executive order, thank you very much. This executive order, which, executive orders tend to be vague and are effective to varying degrees. Anyway, they're not writ law. And this one doesn't really change the law in any ways, but it does give guidance to the people who dictate, not dictate the law, but carry out the law. When you talk
it allows churches to accept more money for campaign contributions.
Yeah, and it also allows them to endorse candidates from the pulpit without losing their tax-exempt status, which I think is the big thing behind this.
Well,
because if you think about it, his executive order, okay, they can't basically the executive order is to destroy the Johnson Amendment. Right. And the Johnson Amendment is part of the IRS Code of 54 that prevents nonprofit organizations from advocating for political candidates.
Right. But how often does the IRS use that? Like next to never. It almost never happens that they actually have to go after somebody's tax-exempt status because of what they say. There's been plenty of churches that have outright campaigned for candidates over the last decades and no repercussions.
Well, what I love about this is I think that this needs to start a conversation of give me one good reason churches are tax exempt.
Yeah.
Because I am 40 years old and I am waiting to hear a reason besides I'm a member of the church or I'm a Christian and I don't feel or Catholic and I don't feel they should pay taxes. Because if we just charged taxes on the land the Catholic Church owns in this country alone, healthcare would not be half the problem it is. And we can still go warmongering all over the world. It is absolutely ridiculous that churches are tax exempt. Because if you want any example of how silly this is, Scientology. Go look it up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what he did? You know what L. Ron Hubbard did? He got on his big boat with his people who signed 10 million year contracts, went into international waters and said, I'm not coming back until you acknowledge that Scientology is a religion and we are tax exempt. That's how you that's how you bully the government into getting your way, basically.
Mm-hmm. As I was saying, by the way, everybody, the day that we were all chattering about the Bowling Green massacre, that's when the ball started rolling on this legislation. I'd like to point that out. Well, we're sitting there as
it's just an executive order. Again,
but Congress started drafting this shit the day that everyone was losing their shit about Kellyanne Conway being an idiot.
No, you're right.
They started drafting this legislation. But we'd rather pay attention to that shit.
There's definitely going to be an agenda of them putting this into law. But right now what it does is when you talk about tax-exempt status, it just gives guidance to what he thinks should be appropriate to investigate under the current law. It doesn't change anything currently. But
It just changes.
It is not a good harbinger if you're interested in separation of church and state.
It's going to take an act of Congress to change. It's going to take an act of Congress to change the law. All this is going to do is give them the ability to choose not to enforce it through his executive order.
It's going to give Trump a W that he can put in the column, along with the W for his health care. That's all he wants, is to be seen as doing what he said.
I'm a winner. I so win. I'm so going to destroy the Johnson Amendment, which is exactly what he said. That's a quote.
Right. I mean, even after they passed the health care bill through the House, he was talking about it like it was something completely different from what had just gotten passed, and how everyone's still going to be covered. And believe me, it's going to be great. It's going to be the best ever. And that's all that matters to him, is that he proposed an idea, and here it is becoming a law.
And that's all his people care about, man. That's why I think the midterms might go a little different than the Democrats are thinking they're going to go.
Yeah.
Because a lot of his supporters are wired like him, man.
It's not going to take a whole lot to tip back the other way, especially when you have, like we were talking about earlier, the people who vote based on wanting to be on the winning side or the underdog. It works both ways, because if you see the Democrats possibly getting their shit together, or just that the Republicans are fucking their own shit up so much that you want to now root for the Democrats. I mean, ultimately, I think you want to root for the team that has the better ideas.
Oh, we don't do that anymore. That's over.
Which is kind of a whole other subject, because as much as... God damn it. As much as Democrats want to criticize what's happening now, and rightfully so, their criticism is just, although slightly hollow, based on the fact that they don't really seem to have any better ideas. I'm not a huge fan of Obamacare. I have currently no health insurance. I will continue to have no health insurance. Doesn't mean I don't give a shit what happens to other people in this country, and it doesn't mean that I wouldn't like to have affordable health insurance. So, I mean, there's still a good portion of us that are left out in the cold, no matter who's in charge.
No, you're right. And it took literally 2.5 years of fighting and living at or below the poverty line for me to finally get the most meager of help from the very system that says, hey, we're there to help people who are in your exact situation. But here, by the way, here's a bunch, 2.5 years of bureaucratic bullshit hoops to jump through.
That's what Reagan said were the scariest words. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that we're paying. Okay, if we're going to, the ship has sailed as far as I'm concerned on all these taxation is theft people. Like, these people live in fantasy land where they think that fucking Red Dawn was a documentary or a how-to manual, and like. Right. That's just not reality. That's not reality.
That's why I can't really call myself a full libertarian, because I agree with a lot of things they say when it comes to freedom, but the taxation is theft. I'm like, maybe if it's spent the way that a lot of our tax dollars is spent, then yeah, I agree with you, that's theft. But there's still a lot of good that my tax dollars do that are just investment.
And the problem is, it goes back to what I said earlier. At least I feel this way very strongly, is that we are taxed, but we don't see benefits from the taxes we pay.
Right.
I mean, every time a new tax is proposed or a tax is raised, we're promised some pie in the sky shit. Oh, your roads are going to be better, the schools are going to be better, and meanwhile, it doesn't work that way. The proof isn't in the pudding, but yet the next time a tax proposal comes up or a tax hike comes up, and it gets passed, it's going to be the same promises as always. If people saw, if their tax money was spent on them, on their community, on their where they live, and they could see improvements. Oh, hey, my taxes went up, but guess what? I don't have to spend $500 every winter to replace tires and fucking and bent rims. because Michigan finally has roads you can drive on for more than 2 minutes before they fall apart. Okay, I'm not happy I'm paying a little bit more tax, but at least I'm seeing something for it. That's where politicians, I think, have lost track of the fact that the average person would be so grateful if they would just throw us a bone every once in a while. Like, we would be like that sexually neglected wife who gets head twice a year and appreciates it a whole lot.
Right.
And we're not asking for a whole lot. Just eat our pussy every once in a while. That's it.
If Trump actually did something about infrastructure in this country, I might just say thank you. And I would probably mean it.
Exactly. But instead, we're going to build a fucking wall, or we're going to, hey, here's $54 billion, and now we're going to look for another fucking quagmire to get ourselves fucking stuck in. And, oh, by the way, it's costing $1 million a day to keep his trophy wife and his fucking on the spectrum brat in New York. Come on, sorry. Move him to fucking, you tell me DC doesn't have good private schools? Really? I think her modeling career is pretty much over with at this point, so she doesn't need to be in New York, the hotbed of modeling. I mean, come on.
There's another subject that I wanted to get to, too, that kind of ties into this, because I think that when we talk about what the leader that could challenge Trump, or maybe somebody, a dark horse type candidate that would actually disrupt the Democratic Party, what they would look like. And it seems hard for me to imagine that, because it's hard for me to imagine somebody who doesn't have the capability to slip up in the public mind, especially when you're talking about people who are consumed with being outraged by identity politics. So,
well, wasn't Weiner supposed to be that guy? And then he was.
That's a bad example because he's a freak.
Okay. No, I'm saying
before he was exposed as a freak, he was
painted to kind of be that guy, but then just eventually there was just too much shit where they like, nah, man, never mind.
Well, listen.
We already dealt with Clinton and his blowjob.
Right. Let's say Anthony Weiner didn't have the whole thing with his obsession with his own dick, right? And nobody had to ever see it. He still probably would have said something that would have pissed off enough people that he would have lost support.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, when you're talking about, like, how long has Stephen Colbert been just adored by liberals? Mm-hmm. And all he has to do is use the word cock holster in reference.
Yeah, I know, right?
And people just fucking lose their shit about what the notion of...
That was a pro-dick sucking joke, all right? I thought it was. Okay, that is a pro-homophobe. That is a pro-homosexual joke.
I'm not sure how pro it is. I'm not sure how anti it is either.
Okay, but why are people? First of all, I'm willing to bet most people who are upset by this aren't gay. So that means they're upset on gay people's behalf. And people that are upset on other people's behalf need to really shut the fuck up and let other people talk for themselves. So I just want to preface that. But what? Okay, even if it is a reference to a gay sex act, I'm sorry. Do gay people not suck each other's dicks?
Right. No, that's what I'm saying.
It's a crude way to put it.
That is a pro-gay joke.
Right.
It's a crude way to put it, but it's factually correct.
Here's one I'll lob back to you, identity police. If Stephen Colbert was gay, would it be okay for him to use the term cock holster?
Straight guys do it all the time.
In reference to somebody's mouth. Yeah, but I'll ask you, do you think that people would be less outraged if Stephen Colbert was a gay man using that term in that reference?
Less people overall would be outraged, and a certain group who maybe is not outraged at the moment would be outraged. Like a gay advocacy group would be like, "Oh, you're painting us in such a bad light by doing that. You might as well be Milo." That's how they would fucking.
But they would be all upset.
But
they would not organize a protest of his show, a boycott of Stephen Colbert's show. There'd be a lot less people involved in that. That would be my guess.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, how dare they assume his sexual identity?
Yeah, because sexuality is a spectrum. Bill Nye told me.
Does that mean that he doesn't ever suck dick? You don't know. How can you judge?
Hey, he might. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's the rule Jay said is if there's a woman there, it's not gay. He might have a trail of devil's threesomes just littered in his past.
Or he's got an understanding. He's like, look, I'm all yours, Molly, but Friday nights for dick sucking.
Yes, I just need that cock. I need it, and I'm going to go get it, but I'm going to come home to you, and I love you.
Right.
Hey, whatever, it's the 21st century. There's consenting adults. Let them do what they want.
Right.
See, to me, this is just...
You assume that to him, dick sucking is always a bad thing? Maybe he loves it. Maybe he's one of those guys that only sucks dick. Doesn't ever let anyone touch his dick. He just wants to suck on somebody else's.
Gay or straight, unless you are asexual, there is no man who is against dick sucking.
How dare you?
Correct.
I don't care, and I'll even challenge some people who claim to be asexual. Someone just rip open their pants, pull down their shit, and start gagging themselves on their cock and see if they don't enjoy it. We'll see how asexual you really are. I'm just saying.
Science.
Blowjobs are blowjobs, man. It's why we call them. They're like
Mythbusters on that one.
It's like we guys.
I'm sorry, that was Nutbusters.
Oh yeah, volume 32. I got that one. That's a good one. But no, I mean, how many times have we either said it or heard it said over our years on this planet that a blowjob's like pizza, even when it's bad, it's good.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just that's even if she gives blowjob the blowjob equivalent of a hot and ready, it's still pizza. It's still a blowjob. And this
because he's saying it about Trump, it's supposed to be demeaning to Trump, which therefore means that the act of sucking dick is always demeaning.
No, he was saying it about Putin having his cock in his mouth, and yeah, right. I think sucking
Why
Vladimir
can't we
Putin's
separate
dick
that?
is demeaning.
Okay, one gay guy sucks another gay guy's dick. No joke. Straight guy sucks another straight guy's dick. Oh, well, there's a possible setup for a joke there.
No, you know why, Aaron? Because we deal with this on the sports podcast all the time. The people who are probably complaining fucking probably don't watch Colbert and have no idea what the context was used. They just saw probably a clip on the internet the next morning, or they read it, and the clutching of the pearls started.
I mean, okay.
So I know that Stephen Colbert and Bill Maher, these aren't people that I think would step up to be politicians or anything at any point. But it is interesting that, I think, Bill Maher's had a lot more controversy in his career than Stephen Colbert has. But it's interesting how people can turn on people with so much anger when they are 95% in agreement with them on like everything else. You have one wrong viewpoint, you say one wrong thing, and that's it, you're done.
I think this is a perfect case of what I've been saying for a while now. The left eats itself. If it doesn't have an enemy, it will invent one out of its own ranks. It's the Ouroboros of fucking a political ideology. It's a snake eating its own tail. That's all the radical left is anymore. And
because they stopped believing that terrorism is a real threat. Understanding that it exists in the world, but it's not like this reason why the government has to take away your rights that they seem to believe. So once you have no fear of foreigners, outsiders, others, it's not. I guess you're right. It's not like they're just cured of that. It has to go somewhere.
It is.
And I think it is a lot about self-hatred, like literally self-hatred. Like, I have ugly thoughts. I saw a guy cross the street once, and he had his hood up, and he was black, and I thought N-word in my head, and then I hated myself so much. And then you go online and you're like, I can't believe that so-and-so said something about black people. And you're really mad at your own thoughts. Look, everybody thinks everything. I don't know why you don't understand that. Every horrible thing that you've ever thought of, everybody else has thought it too. Some of us act on those things, unfortunately, but that's a very small portion of the population. Most of us think fucked up shit and go, that's fucked up. I'm never saying that one out loud. And we move on. Others, when we have no way to express our anger in general, and we don't want to hate ourselves for every weird thought that pops into our head. I mean, this is how you get gay politicians and preachers that are all publicly anti-gay. That is their own hatred deflected outward. Donald
Trump, because he reflects those crazy thoughts in your head. Someone's saying them for you. You don't have to say them.
Run that by me again.
I say the same mentality gets you Trump too. Hey, that guy's saying all the crazy fucked up shit in my head I don't want to say out loud.
Oh, so they kind of, through proxy, get it out through him, kind of like a...
Yes,
like a sin eater from the old days.
That was what was the big story before the election? The silent Trump voter, the person that didn't want to admit to people that they were going to vote for Trump.
Yeah, well, that's part of why we didn't see this coming in the first place. People who are polled,
I don't want to say this shit out loud,
right? That they were voting for didn't want to come out and say that they were voting for Trump. But that's kind of different. That's being racist, knowing that you're racist, but also being smart enough somehow to still be racist, but yet not want other people to know that you are racist.
But see, what you just said right there...
midpoint intelligence, isn't it? Because once you get smarter than that, I think you just pop over to not being racist anymore.
See, that's what you just said. Yeah. That's a dangerous way to think. To assume that just because people are racist, they're dumb. Because... I mean, there's people who, how do I put this? Do I think they're like racist organizations, Aryan Brotherhood, KKK, National Association for Advancement of White People, they are out there, Stormfront, those kind of groups. I don't think I would gun to the people in charge of those groups' heads. I would say there's a percentage of them who don't believe the bullshit that they're spewing, but they found their way to work the grift in the system.
Yeah.
And then there's people who are true believers who, for whatever reason, are just are logical people. But when it comes to this one subject, it's just a blind hatred that's so visceral. It manifests itself in this way. And who knows? I mean, we could go through all the pop psychology reasons. Maybe they got beat up by black kids as a kid, or maybe a girl they were in love with ran off with a black guy. And who knows, really? But
I hear you on that. And I guess
it's just, to me, it's dangerous to underestimate people like that.
No, I understand. And I guess in my mind, I mean, to use words like smart or dumb are just really broad terms anyway. And
I got you.
I understand that somebody can be dumb as a rock when it comes to other races and still, be a highly intelligent in whatever else, They could be an expert in their field in aeronautics or something and also hate Chinese people for some reason. That's totally possible. I'm not saying that like everybody that has a certain IQ automatically becomes non-racist. But I guess smart and dumb are just the wrong terms to use anyway. I guess I'd revert to evolved and less evolved.
Well, considering
is a better way to think of it. You either have a more evolved idea of race, period, or you don't. You either believe that people should be separate, which is a very primitive way to think, or you understand that this is a world where the borders, no matter how many walls we want to try and put up physically, the borders are melting. And it's not about whether we're going to be able to protect our own nation. It's about whether we want to integrate with that world or not.
I still maintain that people okay, if a person tends to hate a group of people that they really don't know personally, know nothing about, except for maybe whatever propaganda from whatever side, or their parents taught them, or whatever the fuck. Once once you humanize a person who happens to be part of that group to one of those people, it's harder for them to rationalize and justify how they feel. Now, they still do. I mean, I literally have known hundreds of people in my life that would say, I don't like black people. I don't like Arabs. Oh, but what about your friend over here? Oh, he's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that shell is hard to crack and get through. But I think that the pendulum has swung far away from, hey, throw everyone together, let's humanize ourselves to each other, to let's shame people into silence. But that doesn't change anyone's mind. All you're doing is you're screaming the loudest until the other person finally goes, I'm done. And then you declare yourself the winner. You didn't win.
Yeah.
You had a louder voice and more lung capacity, or you're such a zealot about the issue that you were willing to scream yourself to the point you lose your voice over the other person you're debating with.
Here's what I have always wondered. Why aren't the people that are screaming about white culture being under attack in this country moving to Europe?
Thank you. Chris, I said this a couple
episodes ago. If you believe it that much, why are you still here?
Chris, I said this a couple episodes ago, and you were shocked. And I went and looked it up to make sure I was right. Canada, huge landmass, 37 million people in Canada. Plenty of room to go out there, and you can clap on 1 and 3, listen to country music, eat your mayonnaise sandwiches, and listen to John Cougar Mellencamp all you want to your heart's content in Canada. And no one's going to fuck with you about it. Go on up there, if they'll have you, that is.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, sure, there's other places that you can go, but damn it, there's America. But I mean, if you think that your identity to your culture is special and different from other cultures, and that we should be kept as pure culturally as possible, then why are you in the country that has, it seems like up until this point, I know we've definitely had our problems with many races in this country, but have always had this theme of a melting pot, right? This understanding that this nation was built by people that came from all over the world to drive natives off their land. So why wouldn't you go back to wherever it is that you think that you're from?
Because they want to be here.
Why stay in this country?
I mean, I guess I'll be the one to say it. It's the same reason the black people aren't moving back to Africa, and Mexicans aren't going back to Mexico, and Arabic people aren't moving back to the Middle East. They want to be here.
Right, they want to be here. So who the fuck decided that just by pure numbers, this is a white country?
The people who feel it's a white country?
The census?
On both sides. No, seriously, the people who feel it's a white country on both sides, people who feel that's a good thing, and people who feel that's a negative thing. They're the ones that are perpetuating this, and they're the ones they're so either, if the people who think it's a good thing will fight to their last breath, or until their fucking wireless keyboard gives out and they got to change the batteries to argue it. And the people on the left who feel that it's a white country won't be happy until, well, white people are pretty much just an afterthought. I'm now, these are extremists. I'm not painting the left and right that this is the majority of them. These are obviously very extreme people who feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about people who'd be like, yeah, we could use some more color and some, mix up the chromosome fucking count in government. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people that are like, no, this is a country's built on white supremacy, and we need to get rid of the white people. Well, good luck, dude. I mean, I don't think if you're an endangered species, we'll wipe you off the planet. But have we wiped any one race off the planet ever in history, recorded history? It's not as easy as
one guy tried, and the rest of the world said, fuck you.
As far as I know, he's the one that got the farthest, and still 6 million's a drop in the bucket. So,
have you guys seen Bill Burr's special?
I mean, I know what you mean, but
hey, facts are harsh sometimes. I mean,
did you see Bill Burr's latest special where he talks about, what's all this love for Hitler? Stalin had a 20 million body count. No one ever brings up Stalin. Hitler's always the most evil.
What about Mao?
Stalin was
but he had
killing
it-
his own people.
He had his thing. Everyone was like, Hitler, what's with the mustache? And he was like, you'll see.
I'm a tortured artist.
You think anyone's going to remember Stalin over there with his bald face?
But I mean, we talked about this either last episode or episode before, but I was really thinking about it after we got done about, so-called white culture, black culture, Latin culture, whatever.
Ooh, I'm in Spokane. Should I go try to run down Rachel Dolezal?
I recently heard an interview with Chuck D from Public Enemy, and they asked him about how does he feel about certain things about politics, and he basically answered the questions, and then he got to a point where he stopped and he goes, okay, let me explain something. First of all, because the questions were a lot about like nationalism from his point of view, and he's like, I don't consider myself anything but a resident of planet Earth. Like, people are my fellow, people are my all people are part of my race. I don't say, or people who I think should be taken care of. I don't say, oh, America first, or Canada first, or South Africa first, or whatever the fuck, Kenya first. And I was like, God damn. I mean, I know that's kind of a pie in the sky way of looking at it, but as we harp on here,
years ago, but
as we harp on this here, we are moving towards a more and more global economy. Who do the people like Bannon and the Breitbart folks, who do they hate the most? Globalists. They hate them even more than cucks.
Yeah.
And it's
Globalist
kind of
cuckolds.
It's kind of a fear of
They let other people fuck their money.
it's kind of a fear of people coming together, but at the same time, I mean, isn't that why is it a bad? Why, goddamn it, why is it a bad thing to want fucking people to get along? Why is that such a pussy idea? And I don't know if it's purely American, but it is a sentiment that I run into on a day-to-day basis in this country.
I think we're seeing that it's not. I mean, I think we're going to get some more. We're definitely going to get another indicator of how widespread this movement is in Europe, just with the vote in France. It's Marie Le Pen, who is the Trump surrogate in this case, and is it Macron? I can't remember. Anyway,
yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is because I have a
Macron
buddy,
is the one who
Marconi,
sounds
and I was
more
like,
sane.
is that your family? He goes, no.
Although it's also interesting that Macron, again, I don't know a lot about French politics. Why would I? I just know what I hear on NPR. But it doesn't sound like Macron's the best candidate, and it's only because Le Pen is fucking things up so much that it seems to be neck and neck.
Well, if I'm correct, the way they do their elections is
that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Runoff. Yeah,
I know it's scary, right? That's like carbon copy shit. I believe there was 8 candidates from 8 different parties. The top 2 who win the vote run against each other.
Right. They do a runoff against a pure majority. So if nobody gets an actual majority of the population, which is probably rare, especially when you have a society that has more than 2 political parties to vote for. I know it's kind of a weird concept, but it's rare for one candidate out of many to get 50% or more of the vote. So you usually do end up in a runoff situation. If nobody gets a pure majority, then it's coming up, I think, in the next couple of weeks that we're going to see the actual vote between Le Pen and Macron.
Monday, I believe.
Monday.
I think
Okay.
I think it's the 7th or the 8th.
Oh yeah, it's coming up sooner than I thought then.
But you know what I find interesting?
I gotta get over there.
What I find interesting is that if you look at this election in France, Brexit was coming up on a year ago, if I'm correct. And she's considered a Brexit candidate when people talk about it. Kind of like we used to say, oh, that's a Tea Party candidate.
Right. I don't know that she's come out and said that we're getting out of this, but
the EU doesn't want her to win because if France leaves the EU, that's pretty much it for the EU.
Oh yeah, there's no fucking way.
Yeah,
The EU would crumble.
I don't know, man. I see that chick winning because who votes in elections? Old people, generally, right?
What is and what is one of the pillars of her election? Fear of Muslims.
We'll see a lot of fear over there. Well, just count the terror. Just count since Charlie Hebdo. Should we do a count?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how she's going to win.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is goddamn. This is going to sound like I'm endorsing her and all her policies, like in toto, but I'm not. I'm just saying, if I lived in France and I saw that shit with Charlie Hebdo, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Fuck extremist Muslims. Sorry. I'm sorry. I've made no bones about it, about how I feel about religion. If you're going to start fucking declaring a death sentence on people who dare to draw your one of your religious figures, fuck you.
Yeah,
you know what? Go evolve and
then
get back to us in 500 years.
So you could also argue that we kind of have this thing, on our side of the ocean here that happened 16 years ago for us to say that as well.
Yeah, but to say fuck extremists is one thing, but
if you notice,
there's too many people just going
Muslims.
fuck Muslims.
Well, that's because there's goddamn such a fucking lack of nuance in people. Maybe once again, a person might understand it, but you get a group of people together and that mob mentality takes over, and they want it boiled down to its simplest ingredient and go, that's what we're upset about. Instead of going, oh wait a minute, there's extremist Muslims. There are, for lack of a better term, casual Muslims who might eat a piece of fucking pork every once in a while. Just like there's Catholics who eat meat on
They
Friday.
wear relaxed fit jeans.
Yeah,
I learned this week
polo shirts.
that there is such a thing with some Mormons called the 100-mile rule, which means if you're more than 100 miles from Salt Lake City, it's game on with all the shit you're not supposed to be eating or drinking or doing.
Yeah, the Amish have a tradition to where once they're young and reach a certain age, they can go out into the world.
Rumspringer.
Yes, that's it. Because I remember it sounded like a drink.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they can choose whether they're going to come back or they're going to stay out in the world. I mean, but once again, that goes back to the idea of like the sin eaters from back like 500 years ago. When a person would die, they'd invite this person over, feed them food, and supposedly not only were they eating the food, but ingesting the sin of the person who died. So that person could go into the afterlife with a clean, soul. But of course, when the sin eater died, that means, he's going to hell. But at 500 years ago, if I'm starving, my ass would have been the sin eater. I'll eat all your sin.
Hey, man. The Catholics, man,
that's
can
a free
be
meal.
Fucking shithead your whole life. If you accept the Lord Savior Jesus Christ in your deathbed and you ask for forgiveness, according to that big book, you'll get into heaven.
Yeah,
Right.
I saw a meme recently that had a painting of Jesus holding a little child, and Jesus was pointing to something that wasn't in the painting, and it said, "Hey Timmy, see that guy over there? That's the guy that raped and murdered your mother, but he accepted me as his Lord and Savior on his deathbed. So go say hi." Brutal. Fuck it, just how I like my anti-religion.
Right.
Hey, you gonna
I'm sorry.
preach it to the
When I start up something half as bad as the Inquisition, then people have a right to start calling me a fucking asshole about this subject. Till then, they can shut the fuck up.
I wonder what the correlation between that policy and the child rape was. Maybe that was instituted around the time that they started poking little boys in the butt.
We talk about the Catholic Church.
Yeah, like, hey,
I think
we need to give ourselves an out for this one. What if
Chris?
this is really bad?
What is your understanding of it? Because I have a theory, but I have no proof to back it up as far as coming from me being entrenched in Catholicism.
understanding of what?
My wild accusation that the deathbed confession sending you to heaven was an out that was put in there to get them out of fucking little boys.
Maybe.
See, I always thought
you
I
gotta-
just
well,
want to
you gotta
talk
remember
more
the-
about the church.
Well, but the Bible's been rewritten like
I
fuck.
know. Who could
I want
know?
to say 3 or 4 times.
You mean transcribed from God's words?
you talking about in this century? Because
I know,
there's
right?
like there's the King James.
only
and the-
I don't know what you're
commandments.
referring to. I'm sure Jesus did a couple drafts, but
By the way, just so you
I'm
know,
willing to bet
Jesus,
there's only
Jesus
7
didn't write
commandments.
Jesus didn't write one word in his own book. By the way, just so you know,
yeah.
Yeah,
I
Jesus
know.
right shit.
it's an
Jesus said,
unauthorized
"Four
autobiography.
dudes." Yeah.
But no,
New
no,
Testament
no.
is
I always-
4 dudes writing their accounts of Jesus.
Yeah, some whom didn't even know him or were alive when he was alive, supposedly. But anyways, I always thought the Catholic Church come up with the idea of priesthood and nuns because the Catholic Church was looking bigger picture, and not just as a religion, but as a world power, and was like, what do we do with our people of faith who are gay and lesbian? Have them live together and swear off marriage. Perfect. And what they didn't count on was a bunch of child molesters and kid fuckers coming around going, what's the perfect way to do this and have no suspicion cast on me? Be a Catholic priest. It's perfect. That's maybe I'm overthinking it, but to me that seems like a very reasonable way for the shit to have evolved as it did over the years of Catholicism.
No, I hear you, man.
But yeah, I was just wondering because you're a Catholic expert, Chris. Didn't you say
Don't
at
put that
one
shit
point,
on me.
But, no, I just said that. I just said, hey, look, man. Just because you study up on World War II, don't make you a Nazi. You know.
Touche.
Didn't at one point you said you had thought about maybe becoming a priest? Like when you were
No,
young?
I had people that thought I was going to become a priest just because, well, you guys know me, when I'm passionate about something, I fucking throw myself into it. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, then all of a sudden I discovered, boobs and, things like pot and, what's this word?
There
Having
were
fun.
There were 2 things Jesus didn't have: boobs.
Yes.
Boobs
Supposedly
and
it was
pot.
fucking Mary Magdalene, but if you say that, the Catholic Church wants you to fucking, they'll nail you to a cross as well.
I was about to say that's about as close as you can come to getting like a fatwa put on you by the Catholic Church, man. It's just like kill that heretic. I mean, didn't they go after the last temptation of Christ just because?
Oh,
when
yeah.
Christ was dying, he had a vision of what might have happened if he'd have chosen an immortal life. So it was like a what if situation. They were still ready to fucking kill Scorsese.
Scorsese dared to make a movie that painted Jesus as a human being who thought like human being and acted like a human being, even though that fucking book preaches that Jesus is God in human form. So he would do human things, dipshits. Like fuck a hooker. Because that's what Mary Magdalene was.
Oh shit. Well,
Yeah, This is why they don't want me in their club anymore.
I can't stop picturing Jesus in a Marvel-style "What If" comic book.
what if? Yeah, what if he'd have? Okay, because if he's capable of miracles,
man.
if he's capable of miracles, if he really wanted to, he could have just literally just been like, no, I don't think so. Hopped down off the cross and went, I'm going someplace where they appreciate teachers, like Greece or something. Later.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
What
his
if?
supposed miracle was 3 days later. He died for our sins, Rich.
Yeah, what if Jesus denied that he was the Son of God, but still had the powers and just was a superhero?
Hey, by the way, there's 20 years of Jesus' life that's missing in the Bible that no one ever wants to get into. There's a story that there's a story
Lost
that
years.
there's a story that has him when he's 12.
When he kills the
that
boy.
His parents take him. No, his parents take him to the temple, and he gets lost, and they can't find him, and then they go and find him, and he's there he's preaching to the preachers, and then just picks up at 33, and no one asks, what happened to 13 to 32? No one's bringing that up?
Yeah, it's just a lot
At all?
of fish and sandals and stuff, really. It's more the same.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if I'm
Editing.
dude, if I'm 14-year-old Jesus and I can perform miracles, first thing, boom, 12-inch penis.
Yeah,
But
but
still gonna have a teenage mind, right?
remember, he was without sin, so he never jerked off, and he never was married, so he never had sex outside of marriage. Jesus is basically the 40-year-old virgin.
Plus, he was the Son of God. He probably already hung.
I would hope God's son is hung. I mean, you know, that would suck. Like, hey, what are you here for? I'm here to save humanity. I can raise the dead and heal the sick, but I got a thumb dick. You know, I mean, it's like...
Yeah, right, needle dick.
It might explain why he hasn't come back in over 2,000 years. Maybe he was like, fuck him, they made fun of me last time. Fuck that.
Son of Christ, needle dick. Or son of God. Damn it, I fucked it up.
Oh, God. Well,
dude, I hope
we outright blasphemed
there are now religious people staying next to me. It'd be hilarious if there's some kind of Christian convention in town and I got Christians on each side of me.
How can we go to heaven if we hear this? Honey, just cover your ears and pray. It'll be okay.
Right. Well, it's one thing to overhear somebody praying, but to just hear somebody yelling at God while they're in a room by themselves.
I know, right? That's the thing. Yeah, people have to think I'm insane.
Wait a minute. That's how Baptists pray. You just described half my family.
Fuck you, God. Why?
Oh, I don't know about all. Well, yeah, I've heard why God, but I haven't heard the full on fuck you, God. You know, I don't think anyone dared to go that far. But yeah, I've heard family members in moments of whatever talk to God like as if he was standing there, and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go.
Did you ever hear that Henry Rollins routine about the people who build their house in on the beach and then are distraught when the hurricane washes it away every fucking 5 years? Why, God? Why did you do this to me? And he says, God's answer should always be, because you built your house on a fucking beach. That's why.
Shit, right? Way to think it through.
I find it interesting that, it seems like the last couple decades we've been hearing statistics continually going down. The number of people regularly attending church, thinking of themselves as being observant in whatever their religion of choice is, or even from having, not becoming atheistic, but just not really having a set religion either, just being spiritual in general. But we don't see a decrease in the number of people who want to use religion to control other people's lives and their access to birth control or abortion, or even where they do business now. So while we may be becoming less religious in general, we're still retaining some of the worst qualities of it. The need to tell other people how to live their lives.
Well, that's the beauty of at least the brand of Christianity I was brought up with, is that so ingrained in the teaching from the Bible to beliefs to whatever is there's a common thread running excuse me, through all of it, which they teach you to think of yourself as the victim, that Christianity is under attack, and you have to be ever vigilant, and when you grow up with that mentality, and that's all you know, and everyone you know, every little thing that could be perceived as an attack on them, they point out, and it turns into a big issue for everyone around you. It becomes perfectly normal to think that way. That's part of, like I said, the brand of Christianity I was raised with. I mean, I can't talk to my super Christian family without hearing about how there's a war on Christians and Christmas and Easter and I'm like, hey, who's kicked down your door and told you couldn't worship Jesus? Well, I can't go into court and say the 10 Commandments. I didn't ask you that. I said, who's kicked open your door and said you can't worship Jesus? Nobody yet. That's your problem. Yet. Really? That's how they think. It is literally imprinted in them at a young age. And so that's why the numbers go down, but the persecution complex stays the same.
I'll let you finish.
Go ahead.
No, because then you have, because why these people are butthurt, maybe it's because I know where they're coming from, I'm about to kind of half-ass defend them, is you have things like, local example, City of Hamtramck, call of prayer comes over the tornado siren, the town PA system every day. You go into certain municipal buildings across the country, there's a prayer space. specifically geared towards a religion that's not Christianity. We'll just say that. So that's where these people. I can tell you that's where that mentality is coming from.
And what I say,
they see another religion being catered to, but when they try to do theirs, they get shouted down right away.
And what I
also see somebody that they think lesser of also being more observant than they are in their particular religion.
What I say when I see people who say that is I say, just because your forefathers chose a religion that doesn't pray obnoxiously doesn't mean you can't pray in the middle of a courthouse.
Right. I personally think all prayer is obnoxious. I just lucky enough not to hear most of it.
But now that's just me. That's one side of me. If I'm going by how I feel about religion in government places and stuff like that, fuck your daily call to prayer. Fuck your prayer spaces in any government building. You want to pray, go to a mosque, go to a church, or go the fuck home.
Yeah.
You have places to do that. I don't care what religion you are. When you're going for a traffic ticket, when you're going to the DMV, if you can't schedule your 5 times to point to the east, bow to Mecca, and pray around your daily routine, then you're a shitty Muslim who really needs to learn how to multitask.
And also, too, the retort that you'll get, at least that I get, is, well, what about church bells? The church bells aren't broadcasting a prayer. They're playing music.
In fact, the original thing was to call people to church. Now church bells ring and there's no service going on. It's almost like they ring at 12 o'clock, like the noon whistle in some towns or some shit. I mean, let's be honest. Take a person who wasn't raised in that environment and say, what does the church bells ringing mean? What do you think they're going to say? They're not going to say, oh, that's a prayer or that's a call to service. They're going to go, I don't know.
That's
never really
God
thought about
masturbating, Billy.
But if they started broadcasting, like you said in Hamtramck, they start broadcasting prayer from any religion over a fucking loudspeaker, you're going to know what the fuck that is. And you're going to be like, why the fuck am I listening to people pray out loud? From a government building, being broadcast from a government building.
I personally like the call to prayer. I think it's nice. I don't mind it.
As far as how it sounds. Yeah. But I'm sorry. I don't care how nice of a Christian hymn there is. I don't want any government playing it over another religion's prayer.
Right. I also don't know the words. So if there was a beautiful melody being broadcast throughout my city that was all lyrics about how great God is, I'd probably hate the fuck out of it.
But since it's in Latin, you're like, oh, that's all right. It kind of sounds good. It's like opera. I don't know what the fuck they're saying, but they mean that shit. Yeah, Chris, I agree with you, man. And that's the problem is that too many people think if you say something bad or what's considered bad or negative, however you want to look at it and put it, towards Islam, then that must mean you're on the side of Christians. No, I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on the side of separation of church and state. Your religion is your business, your private business. Don't share
it when you're at work. Go sit in your fucking car.
Exactly. Well, no, hey man, this is what I had to go through with my uncle. He says you can't pray in school in Tennessee. I said, you can't pray in school. He goes, no. I said, let me ask you a question. Can you pray without being verbal, without verbalizing it? Yes. How come you can't pray in school? How many people have prayed before they took a test in school and didn't utter a word?
Right.
Come on, Uncle Bill. Stop with your bullshit. And he's just like, well, I mean, they used to have led prayer in school, and that was wrong.
Right.
Sorry. What do you want me to say?
Hey, how many guys in high school are praying that test comes out negative that she's going to take on lunchtime? All right.
Right.
There's a guy who does a podcast who talks about when he went to high school, they segregated the gym classes, male and female, and the males all had to swim nude in his high school pool. Well, okay, they did that back then, which is fucked up in my mind. I don't even understand how that's cool in the 50s or 60s, but whatever. Yeah. That doesn't mean we do it today. Just because shit was overlooked or a blind eye was turned towards something when you were a kid doesn't mean that it was the best way to be. I mean, isn't that's what's so scary about, to me, people who just go, oh, it's because it's God's will and that's it. There's no questioning. There's no taking in new information, because once they hit a wall, instead of going, okay, how do I find out an answer by getting around this wall, they just go, oh, well, that must be where God wanted me to stop. It's his will. That's a dangerous way for a fucking species who is self-aware to go about themselves.
Yeah, it's this idea that, along with breaking from religion, goes the concept of breaking with tradition, which means that you're breaking from something that has historically worked, quote unquote. Only when you're able to remove yourself from religion, then you can look at it more logically and say, well, sure, it's about what works, but it's about re-examining these concepts and figuring out what does really work and what has just been done continually out of tradition.
Well, the problem is...
So tradition is a way that people can stagnate and not continue to evolve. I'm not saying that it holds people back, but when you have a concept that everything that you've known before is your tradition, and everything new that you occur from that point forward when you become aware is non-traditional and therefore bad, how can you grow ever in any aspect?
The only hope is you as new generations come along, they're the type of kids who, when they drive past City Hall and they see, the oh shit, I forget what they call it for Hanukkah, where they light the menorah, a nativity scene, whatever the fuck, other religion has some scene up. They go, why are all those there? Oh, it's because that's the tradition. Well, wait a minute. It's tradition. Why is our government putting up religious symbols because it's a certain time of year? Like, what I'm saying? People are going to question it beyond, oh, that's tradition? Okay, that's cool. Hey, but wait a minute. Why is that menorah there? Or Star of David or whatever? That's the only way it's going to go away in these people. Is because if you don't question things like that, you're not programmed. You're not just wired to. You're never going to question it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, but it's not even a steady progress. It's not like every preceding generation it becomes more aware. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Just like the Paul Abdul song.
Well, I think a lot of it also is it's built into people in a lot of ways. The older they get, the more conservative they get for whatever reason, whether it's because they're closer to death.
The more fearful you get, yes.
Yeah, exactly. They're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were 20, they were invincible in their mind, and so they didn't even bother worrying about this shit. And that's also an issue.
And they never had a problem with another race until that black guy or that Mexican took their job.
Exactly.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's more as you get older, you get cynical. Like when you're younger and idealistic. I mean, Rich, when we met, you could probably agree, I was far more liberal than I am today. But you met me when I was, 19, 20? I think that's just how everybody is. I think just the older you get, the more cynical you get, and that's why you get more conservative, because you just get, all right, been there, done that, it's a bunch of bullshit, next.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I find what's happening with me.
Say, well, look, I know not everyone not every Mexican, not every black person is horrible in a gang or a murder or something like that, but why take the risk? I just don't want to live near them.
And that's the brick wall I run into when we have these conversations. I don't know how do you get people who are like that to change their mind, because that's such a foreign way of thinking to me. I mean, okay, if I am robbed and the person who robs me is black and I live in a predominantly black neighborhood, I do not all of a sudden go home and see all my neighbors who I've known, see them as potential, threats to me.
Right.
They're the same people. They didn't rob me. This one cocksucking motherfucker robbed me. That's who robbed me.
Right.
All right.
Also, it would be weird if that guy was white. You'd be like, what the fuck was that guy doing in my neighborhood? robbing people.
That's a ballsy white boy right there. Especially when I love Detroit.
That's like, the guy. Just take the wallet. Well, what do you need? Anything. Just get the fuck out of here.
I seriously picture like a white stick-up artist in Detroit being like the scene where fucking Ringo pulls the gun on Jules in Pulp Fiction, and he's just like, I hate to break it to you and hurt your ego, but this is not the first time a gun's been pulled on me. Like, I don't think that robbery would go like that white boy was thinking. Like, they're going to be like, oh, you got a gun? So do I. You know what I mean? And it's like it's like robbing rednecks. You never know what they're carrying. You know what I'm saying? They'll pull out a hand cannon and lay some daylight through you. So you don't hear about people getting mugged in the street in some small town in the Thumb in Michigan.
Yeah, because they'll pull the shotgun they got behind their fucking bench out. What? Huh?
I'll tell you this.
Me up? Guess what? Give me your shoes.
The first time I drove through Texas, they still had open container law, and they had the law where they could have an open beer between their legs, drinking it, driving down the road as long as they weren't drunk.
Right.
And they had the law.
And carry, right?
That, and they could keep a loaded rifle or shotgun in their gun rack in their pickup truck. And so I was real polite and always yielded the right of way going through Texas. Let me tell you something, because for every pickup truck that went by, I shit you zero. This is 20 years ago. I'm going to say probably one of every three had fucking rifles in a gun rack. And I'm like, yep, it's just not worth it, man. It's just not worth it just to make it someplace 5 minutes before I would have. Screw that. I mean, I know that's a shitty thing because people are like, what are you saying about? Well, an armed society is a polite society, and it's like, it's kind of true.
But I kind of drive with that mentality even here in Michigan. You know, none of it's worth it.
The older I get, I do. When I was young, fuck that. Get out of my way. What are you doing on my road?
I had a cousin of mine who lived in a suburb of Atlanta like 20, 25 years ago called Kennesaw, Georgia. And if you had a Kennesaw address, I don't know, I mean, here we go with generalizations with the South. Make your own. But it apparently was a law. If you lived in the city, you had to have a gun. And supposedly their crime rate was virtually nothing because it was the mentality of like, shit, you don't, if you're going to stick up a little old lady, she might point a gun right back at you.
She'd pull out her shit and be like, run your shit. Be like, damn, Grandma.
Give me your wallet now.
Squeeze out a few tears for Grandma. That's right. I mean, just...
Yeah, supposedly the crime rate there was virtually nothing. This is 20, 25 years ago. This is late 80s, early 90s.
But see, that's one of them subjects that, okay, if my really hardcore liberal friends heard me talk about in these terms that we have, they'd go, oh my God, I didn't realize you were one of those. What the fuck you mean one of those? All I would do is I would point to...
That's how you got Donald Trump. Call us one of those. I would terms like one of those.
I would just point to what the chief of police in Detroit said not that long ago, which was, guess what? We are severely underfunded. We're understaffed. The staff we do have sometimes aren't trained for situations as well as they should be. And that's because of lack of funding, and that has nothing to do with me. That's the people at the top that were fucking up this city for 3-4 decades. So guess what? Go out and buy yourself a handgun if you legally can, because sometimes we might not get there in time. When your police chief says that, and I don't think he's like that. I don't think he's like a hang 'em high, uber conservative police chief either. That has to tell you something. I mean, he's telling people that hey, look, we can't do it all, and if you legally can defend yourself, do it. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's why I don't understand a lot of protests against cops, because there's no solution there. I mean, if you understand that there are people that are undertrained for their position that are being armed and told to protect people, I think your response should be, well, fuck, what are we doing? Let's give them some more money. Let's make this a higher paid position so we attract a higher caliber of people, and we also throw a lot more money at the proper training.
And while
Instead
that makes sense,
of going out and trying to convince the rest of the U.S. that all cops are racist pigs. I mean, I understand your anger, but what is your proposition? What is the end result here? That we get rid of cops? I mean, we have to train somebody to be cops.
Well, I mean, guys, I think anytime we've ever talked about police brutality, and it's been in the news since we've been doing the show, we've all pretty much said at one point, look, I have empathy, I have compassion for people that find themselves in a situation, but also shut the fuck up and stop arguing with the cop. How about this?
Yeah.
Do what he says. If he says put your hands in the air, put your hands in the air. If he says stop, stop. You know, I mean, there's a certain point where you and I'm flirting with saying you bring it on yourself, but I'm not sure of any other way to put it. I mean, we've all had these conversations, whether on the air or off the air. Cop pulls us over. We don't start going, what do you need, motherfucker?
Right. It's not the same as saying somebody is, deserved to be shot or is guilty in some way. But you do have to have an understanding that both parties brought tension to this situation. Now, this isn't the last shooting that we heard of this week, I don't know if you heard about the party that got broken up. And there was a car full of teenagers driving away that an officer shot at and killed one of the kids.
No, I didn't hear about that.
It is sometimes crazy, out of control police officer. I mean, that's insanity. But yeah, in a lot of these cases where, these people didn't deserve to be, may not even have deserved to be detained, but still found themselves in a confrontation with a police officer. And you do have to accept that there is an amount of responsibility that they bring to escalating that situation that didn't need to happen. That might have gone a different way if you had a different attitude.
What does Adam Carolla say all the time? Instead of cop, treat them like person with a gun.
Right.
That's essentially what they are.
Right. Well, I can, whatever my thoughts are, you're winning this one because you're the one that's armed and I'm not.
Correct.
So let's just get this over with and move on. If it's unjust, we'll deal with it then.
Also, you said earlier, one way to deal with it is give them funding. Problem is, in today's microwave society, when a number is so large of funding that is given to the police, automatically it comes with promises of you better get the murder rate and the crime rates down, and it better be fast.
Right. Yeah.
That's not how shit works, man. That's not how shit works.
No, I know.
When you're talking systemic change from the inside out, to do it within a generation would be amazing in my eyes. To do it within a year or two to think that's possible, it's insanity. That is literally like saying I'm going to jump off a 100-story building and land on my feet and walk away. That's impossible.
It's like one of Trump's solutions to our quote-unquote immigration problem in this nation is to throw a shit ton of more ICE agents at it. And we've already seen when George Bush tried to ramp up the number of ICE agents in a hurry in order to make it look like he was doing something against illegal immigration in this country, we ended up with a shit ton of very poorly trained ICE agents that they ended up having to fire.
And by the way,
we need to figure out what Barry did, because he deported the most people ever, quietly.
Or this case with Facebook, finally actively responding to criticism against videos that have been posted on their site by hiring 3,000 employees, or at least vowing to hire 3,000 employees to comb through this content and get rid of that stuff before it gets out of control.
They're building Big Brother right in front of our face. They're putting articles about it on AP.
Right. So, I don't even know how you train for a job like this, but if you don't have a good amount of turnover just based on the job itself, you're still, even if you continue to ramp up the number of people and manage to stem the flow of people leaving for better jobs, or taking that just with the hopes of like maybe they'll bump me up to a better position because I just want to work for Facebook and not, look at other people's stupid videos all day, it's still nothing. It's ultimately nothing. To say that a few thousand people could actively police and decide what should be broadcast.
Or 3 billion profiles on Facebook.
Yes.
3,000 people are going to take care of.
Right. And not all of them are posting video content, but...
Hey, supposedly there's already 4,500, so this will bring us up to like, an even $8,000. Even if it was 10% of the users that posted video content, which I would say would be well under what the actual number may be, that's still way too many to actually keep track of.
But you know what's going to happen?
Do anything about.
You know what's going to happen?
What?
It's going to be just like the so-called war on drugs was. They're going to hire more cops to throw at the problem, and what they're going to end up finding is they're going to okay, I'm on Facebook. They got closed, private, secret groups to where you have to be a member of the group to see what's posted. Mm-hmm. But you'd think in that group, pretty much anything goes because they monitor who comes in. Like some of these groups, it's like if another member doesn't invite you, you don't get in. So you'd think, you'd have, carte blanche without going nuts, no child porn or shit like that you could post whatever. The people that Facebook hires, like what percentage of 1% do you think are people are posting videos that Facebook would take down? So they're going to sit there and go, okay, well, not, click, okay, no, this isn't one of those videos. What are they going to do? They're going to start looking for a way to rationalize their job, so they're going to start fucking looking for people who post a meme that someone doesn't like or a nip slip, and we're going to yank that and give you a 30-day ban. That's what it's going to turn into. I mean, it's just like putting more people along the border. It doesn't stop the influx of people coming into this country illegally. Yeah. We have to accept there is going to be a number that comes into this country illegally every year, no matter what we do.
Right. That's just the way we accept many other things in this country, like traffic deaths, in order to have a freeway system full of cars.
Smog.
So we can all get to work. Yeah.
The wait at the DMV. I mean, it's a million different things.
This is a marketing move by Facebook. That's all it is. This is them throwing some money at the problem and also looking like, a great job creator because they're hiring thousands of people to do this job. And in order to clearly give the message that they care about this issue. They can't do shit about it ultimately, but they care deeply about this issue.
And meanwhile, all 3,000 of them workers are in sub-basement D with a fucking office that looks out into the men's bathroom.
And they're going to get no training, guidance, counseling on any of this. I guarantee it.
Hey, you know what? Maybe that's an idea. Maybe one of us should apply for, Facebook monitor job and see what actually they require. I bet you don't even have to write code.
A podcast I was listening to the other day, it's saying that apparently there's huge turnover in that job because a lot of people can't psychologically handle it.
Yeah, certainly.
Like the people that they already have there now. Like fuck this, you ain't paying me enough to fuck me up for the rest of my life.
They need to hire through 4chan. Those
yeah, no shit.
People,
there you go.
Those people don't give a fuck. They've seen it all, man. Especially the veterans.
I could do that job.
I couldn't. Dude, this half the time
children and
you guys want to show me videos. I'm like, are we watching somebody getting murdered? You're like, yup. Like, nope, I'm out. So yeah, this job wouldn't be for me.
I'm not that bad, but children and animals, I have a hard time watching extreme shit happen to.
I don't want to watch anybody's life force go all the way to zero. It's just not me. I've never been into it.
Yeah,
I don't even like it in my movies.
But I think I would be able to get over it. But who knows? I mean, when you're in that situation and maybe you see, multiple videos like this and it just gets to be too much.
Well, I have to imagine in police departments, FBI, whatever, anybody who deals with trying to bust people with online child porn, there has to be a high burnout rate on that in that type of job. I just can't imagine there's not. I mean, you'd have to be like almost completely without empathy to do that job and it not to fucking go home with you on some level. I mean, to where you could just go, okay, log out, punch out, go home. I'm gonna have a nice meal, fuck the wife, and go to bed.
And if you can, you
But see,
might have some problems.
Would you rather them people be looking
special
for
investigator from Billions?
Well, would you rather have those type of people looking for those for online child predators, or being an online child predator? I mean, so that's one of the things when we talked about sociopaths. There's a lot of professions that lend themselves to you have to be a sociopath to excel in, or it really helps. Surgeons, people that work for the CIA, certain MOSs and jobs in the military.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, I got to return some videos. It's just, we need those people in society to a certain extent. What we don't need them is going on Jeffrey Dahmer kill crazy rampages.
So you're for Facebook
sociopaths
doing this move just to get some of the psychopaths some regular paychecks.
Kind of.
We'll settle down. It's the American dream.
I mean, I'd rather that than them going into politics.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, just because I posted, something with the word cocksucker on it and it gets taken down, that doesn't really hurt me as much as taking my health care, okay? So I think I can live with one a little bit easier than the other.
Yeah. Well,
by the way,
this is a topic.
Literally. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. You broke up. I couldn't hear you.
No, I stopped because we were all three going.
Oh.
It's like we're all trying, in the Three Stooges, trying to go through the door at the same time.
We're like, we stop and we go, okay.
No, after you.
It's like that clip from John Oliver 2 weeks ago, where they showed all of the cable news networks, just clips of everybody yelling over each other.
I love that.
Well, we got a local show that's like that. That gets pretty interesting. It literally is, they introduce the panel, and then everybody just starts yelling over each other.
But it is called Let It Rip.
I mean, and it's like, here's our panel, here's our subject, scream at each other for 15 minutes.
Imagine if Bill Maher's show was a Thunderdome.
We have that here in Detroit on a local news station. And surprise, it's on Fox.
I know, right?
Well, hey, have you guys caught up or seen any of the new season of Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I'm current. But we're only 2 episodes in, right?
2 or 3.
I think we're 2.
I've only seen one. I've only seen the first one.
It's going really fast. They've covered a lot of ground in the 2 episodes.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe I'm late to the party, but is Guilfoyle not one of the best characters on television?
Oh,
or
no,
is it just
he is.
Me?
No, he is, dude.
I mean, dude, I watched that guy. Pretty much, he's like, to me, the breakout star of that show. He's like, if there was an episode he wasn't in, I'd be like, aw.
Him or Ross Hanneman.
I won't give away the joke because Chris hasn't seen episode 2 yet. But just him popping a champagne bottle is like the funniest shit.
Yeah.
It's still the funniest thing.
Keeps getting better.
The funniest thing to this day still is, spoiler alert on the first season, is Ehrlich fucking threatening that kid for Ritalin, like when he throws him off his bike and shit. That is one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen in my life.
No, I mean, I thought it was hilarious, but I like the jokes that they set up, and it pays off. Like maybe 5 episodes later, sometimes the next season, one of which was, I forget the name, but the really asshole millionaire investor guy. Slick
Ross
back
Hanneman.
Yes, thank you. He goes up to Richard's assistant. This guy fucks. And then like 5 episodes later, there's like a dime piece walking out of his bedroom talking about, is he going to call me later? And it was just perfect. I was like, that is great, man. I love that type of shit. And I think it was Guilfoyle who turned around and looked at Dinesh and went, that guy fucks.
Yes. You are correct.
Oh, shit. Yeah, man. That's,
do you watch Billions at all, man?
No, you guys told me
you
about
need to
it.
Start.
Is it Amazon or Netflix?
It's through
Showtime.
Showtime. So
Okay. Well,
you can do the Showtime subscription through Hulu, which I would recommend.
Well,
I have not seen this Sundays yet. I've been informed some crazy shit goes down. So just to give you a heads up, I haven't seen this past Sundays yet.
Well, I
The
do know
scales will fall from your eyes this episode.
Mandy even texted me. She's like, "You should not wait till you get back to watch Billions." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like that. She was like, "Stay off." She's like, "Stay off the internet."
It's really good.
Isn't it Paul Giamatti and the guy from Band of Brothers and Homeland?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I know this. I know the show you're talking about, but I haven't seen it. It's definitely on my to watch list. Now, since they took Scrubs off of Netflix again.
They took it. I was just about to actually damn it.
Dude,
I was going to start to rewatch it.
You brought it up a couple podcasts ago. I got through like 2 seasons and then boom. I go to bed, continue watching it, and it's gone completely. I'm like, son of a bitch. So yeah, I'm definitely looking for a new show.
It'll be back.
It's definitely in their rotation, like every 3 months or whatever. It pops up for a couple months and then goes away. But yeah, I tried that House of Lies.
I did not like that show. I love Don Cheadle. I love what's her name?
Kristen Bell.
Oh God, do I love her?
Oh, I know you do. In fact, I know Dax Shepard's brother. We can go over to his house, beat him up.
That's good enough for me.
But yeah, I couldn't get into that show, and then
this is for Kristen Bell, and this is for Chips.
Hey, what is that prison movie he did with the guy from Arrested Development?
Let's go to prison.
Yeah.
Yes, that was
bad
pretty
actually.
Good. Yeah, that was.
I don't hate Dax Shepard.
Idiocracy, come on.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. In the right role, he's great, and he's one of the rare people that I really like hearing interviewed because he's just a dude.
Oh, he totally is. I'm not joking. I used to work for his brother, Dave Shepard.
He is the least
same middle school I went to in Milford.
Actor I've ever heard interviewed.
Yeah, and it runs in the family. Working for his brother, yeah, his brother's the same way. So
Isn't Dax the guy that made Justin Timberlake cry?
Mm-hmm. Playing the tax agent.
Oh yeah.
He calls his mom. Mom, they're taking everything, even my guitar, man. Dude, I'm gonna be honest
about that. That's where you're introduced to Dax Shepard.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like, I'd like to think that I wouldn't cry, but I mean, I'm Justin Timberlake. I'm not gonna kill the guy. I got too much to live for. But they're taking all my shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do I do?
If I was in his position at 19 and someone showed up taking all my shit, I'd probably be crying too. Like, what the fuck? I just got this shit. You're taking
exactly. I just cut the pube hair cut off. Come on, I'm starting to be serious.
I'm 19. I've had this for a year, tops.
I just lost to other 4 losers and started a solo career. Don't do this to me. Yeah, that was one. That was like the very first one.
And nobody knew who Dax Shepard was, and that one day he would go on to marry Veronica Mars.
Yeah.
All right. Worked out for him.
I just think of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I never watched Veronica Mars. I just picture her in that movie, and I'm like, God, she's such a miserable bitch in that movie.
I watched Veronica Mars. Not a bad show, but I mostly
wasn't she like a detective of some sort?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Actually, Rob Thomas, the creator, not the singer, his other show, iZombie, is actually really entertaining.
I remember you and Jay talking about that, giving it high marks.
Well, I stopped watching Flash and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow. And the main reason is because the stories were cool, and it was fun seeing, the superheroes come to life, whatever. But there was very little consistency of character in any of those series. And so even the points where you were supposed to have this big emotional moment or where the characters are growing seemed just hollow because there was no development up until that point. It was just like, oh, we need somebody to do this, so it's this character decides that they're going to do that, and that makes this happen. It's like all of your characters only exist to move your plot forward, which is the opposite way to come at any story. And iZombie is the only one that bucks that, and it's the same guy who created Veronica Mars. It's funny, it's interesting, it's certainly a challenge for a lot of the actors because one of their main themes is that when the zombies eat the brains of somebody else, and these are zombies that can pass, so to speak. You know, they're not completely mind-fucked, they're just the same person with less skin, and they have to eat brains, or less pigment to their skin, and they have to eat brains, and it's harder to kill them. So when they eat brains of somebody, they kind of take on some of that person's memories and personality traits for a certain period of time. So it's one of those roles where, especially the lead, who is a zombie, has to be somebody different every week, and pulls it off really well.
Yeah, see, this sounds like one of them shows. If I started watching, I can't jump in the midstream of it.
No, I think it definitely pays off to follow the whole story. Like the other superhero stories shows, you could totally jump in anywhere and just watch one season. As a matter of some of it, I'd recommend. There are better seasons. The first season of Flash was actually really good, and around I think it was season 3 and season 4 of Arrow got really good. Beyond that, it's all fluff mostly.
See, that's what I tell people who haven't read the Dark Tower series. I'm like, just read a summary of what happened in book 1 and start with book 2. And the people that do that usually get into it. And the people who start with book 1 go, I couldn't make it through book 1, man. I couldn't do it.
See, that was me. I didn't make it through book 1. I didn't make it. Same thing with I want to say the Hobbit series. I read the Hobbit, but
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Thank you.
When Kevin Smith put in Clerks 2 the scene where he's like, it's fucking 3 movies about walking. I used to say that all the time about the books, and that's why I couldn't get into them. I'm like, they walk everywhere. That's it. Every once in a while, something happens. Like,
right. In the case of like midway through the first book of Walking, there's like a 3-chapter meeting.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to decide what to do. And it's like watching episode 2 of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it is May the 4th, by the way. But no, guys, I made it through the first Lord of the Rings, and then I slept through Return of the King, and then I didn't bother with the third one.
The movies I actually really enjoyed because they were just gorgeous. Certainly I understood the major story, and it does on top of looking really beautiful, certainly the story's all there. I mean, all you have to do is kind of be true to the source material, and you're kind of guaranteed your built-in audience for it. But it does do a really good job of introducing a shit ton of characters, and not once did I say, wait, who's that guy? Like, I even do that in Game of Thrones. I can't fucking keep track.
Oh, my God, dude. Yeah, you need a scorecard sometimes.
Right, and it doesn't even matter to me anymore. You know, I get the gist. I understand the bigger story here. Do I understand all the ins and outs? And maybe I'm missing something about when somebody said this to somebody that was in reference to the fact that they're related to this other person. And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck, man. People get stabbed. Girls show their boobs. You know, it's just a big fucking dragon infested soap opera. Just go with it.
Well, the thing that most people I'm friends with and I know who are really into Lord of the Rings, the thing that they get into is they are really into the lore of the world that Tolkien created. You know, like the different languages and the geography of it. And I think that those type people, that book series kind of lends itself to. Those are the people who are like, oh, they're walking, but they're walking through an amazing world. And I'm like, it's not that amazing to me. I'm just not into it. I've never been big on the swords and sorcery and dragons stuff. I've always been more science fiction guy. So I'll read something like the Dune series, which is just a science fiction version of Lord of the Rings when it comes to like people who can't get into it. They'll say, there's just too much shit. It's too dense, man. I can't get into that. I'm like, I love it. So, I mean, I understand it. The movies I liked, and then when I heard that he was making The Hobbit, I was like, maybe I'll give it a shot. And then he turned it into 3 movies, and I was like, I'm done. Seriously, 3 movies for The Hobbit? Come on now. You can read that book in an afternoon. There is no reason for that to be 9 hours worth of movies.
Yeah,
Seriously.
the amount of compression that he had to do just to get that story, the Lord of the Rings story, to work in 3 sit down and watch them reasonably in one sitting movies. And then the complete converse of that with The Hobbit. How do I take something that was as third as thick as the first volume of the entire series and stretch that into the same amount of movies?
Well, that's why I really think with this Dark Tower movie coming up, they're really hoping that it kind of sets the precedent of start a successful franchise in the movies and take it to TV, but not like they did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with minor characters. Take the major characters to TV for a season or 2, have another movie, and do it that way. Because that's what they're really hoping for will happen with the Dark Tower series. That's how they said, well, this is just, it's the first chapter of a longer story, but it's a self-contained chapter. If it does well, we're going to turn it into a TV show with everybody that's in the movie. And then there'll be another movie down the line. And if they can do that, that's printing money. So studios are wanting to do that so bad.
Yeah, this concept of having a franchise, of having something, they're only just now understanding how it works. It's not about, well, if we make an Iron Man movie, then we have to keep making Iron Man movies because that's what people want to see. It's about deepening that universe, drawing from more or even extrapolating from there. So, yeah, to have, it's not about the Dark Tower. Somebody else could have taken that and easily made it a 3 or 4 multi-picture run, all based on Idris Elba as, as a main character. Probably totally, have to basically strip the text for it and ruin the original story. But while certainly you're going to have big stars that will continue to have pull no matter what they do. What's going to continue people to not only pay money to go see your movie, but to be bought into all of that, to then watch the TV shows, buy the merchandise, buy the DVDs and the Blu-rays and all that shit too, and be an actual fan of that universe. Is how you accomplish that is through actually deepening it. Marvel made a misstep in the way that it tries to handle S.H.I.E.L.D. and even DC doesn't understand it with their properties. They do a decent job with these TV shows. They do a decent job with the movies, but they're totally separate things. There's no crossing over. No, we have to make a new Flash. We have to make a Flash movie, even though it seems like they're not going to make a Flash movie now. Even though they've got a perfectly good Flash in the TV show that is actually doing like amazing ratings for the CW, but they won't put him in a Justice League movie. As much as we're in this new golden age of television and people are looking at it more as an art form and not so much as just a vehicle for commercials, there's still a line there that I think is certainly, and it's an artificial line that Hollywood is putting upon themselves that they can't cross. And it's going to be interesting with this Dark Tower thing to see how successful it is. And I think it's going to be amazingly so.
Well, it's also
and how that affects other companies' decisions on what they do with their properties, and if they do draw those clear dividing lines between film and TV.
I think it's also maybe a kind of an American film studio way of looking at things, because if you look at Idris Elba, he did movies and television. He didn't give a shit as long as he liked to roll.
And stage, right.
Yeah,
He's an actor.
and it's. I remember in an interview they were talking to him, and someone made a comment, not to him, but in the article, that he has a very non-Hollywood and almost British way of looking at acting. He's like, a television, movie, stage, what does it matter as long as it's a good role? What does it matter
Stewart.
as long as I like it? Exactly. And it's interesting because for the longest time, you could go from television, and if your show was good, they'd give you a movie. Like, well, not the longest time, but, at first that's how it was, like Sex and the City and Entourage and all that. Now it's like...
Right. Maybe you could be so crazily successful as a TV show that even after you're off the air, people still want more. And so we almost have to make a movie.
And now they're looking at them as...
It's going to suck because that's the only reason it was made.
Exactly. And now it's like, well, wait a minute. These are two separate mediums, but one lends itself to more of a event, a.k.a. the movie, and one lends itself more to the storytelling. And that's we can stretch it out and dive into areas you don't have time for in a movie, and that's where the television series come in. Because the best the series in this golden age of television really are now visual novels. It's almost like there's especially in the first season of Game of Thrones, you could almost see the chapters in the way they were telling the stories,
or the leftovers. I mean, here's one of my favorite shows. I haven't read the book, but as I understand, a lot of season 1 is drawn from the book. Everything else has been extrapolated from there. That's the the show creator's vision of what they want the show to be about from there. And season 2 is my favorite so far. I mean, season 3 is looking to be pretty fantastic as well, but I don't know if they could top what they did in season 2. And you're right. I mean, if that was a whole series of books, I would definitely read it.
Well, see, I think it's also, how many years did Hollywood and television and movie studios underestimate what audiences would understand? Well, we can't do this. Yeah. This is too complex. They won't be able to follow it. Too many characters. I remember that was one of the gripes about The Wire was there's too many characters. There's too much shit going on. No one's going to be able to follow it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've even regressed, though. We reached a point where we could have a character like Archie Bunker that everyone could understand as being the racist and being the boob because he was a racist, as being the old man behind the times that no one took seriously anyway. But now we couldn't have that character because we can't keep those two thoughts separately in our head. Well, no, he's a racist. He can't be on the air. Well, no, he's a racist because he's portraying people that exist out in the world.
Well, I think we've tried to morph that character from Archie Bunker into the anti-hero. The Tony Soprano, the Walter White, Dexter. We instead of, because if you go back and watch some of those Archie Bunker shows, everybody's still very one-dimensional. I mean, it's tell a joke, laugh track, tell a joke, laugh track. It's just television hadn't evolved to that point yet. And I think, especially since like The Sopranos came out, like, is it any really? I'm drawing a correlation. Maybe I shouldn't, but is it any shock that we have like Donald Trump as president when we've been worshiping anti-heroes for the last 20 years? I mean, it's almost like
that's a good point.
It's a damn good point, man.
As pop culture goes, pop culture is how you shape a society's way of thinking. That's how come guys like Khrushchev, got up and said, "We'll take over your country and never fire a shot." He understood that if you could reach a country through its culture it may take a generation or two, but you can start to shape how people view the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for 20 years now, we've rooted for, in what is universally, as far as critics are concerned, the best shows on television for kind of fucking likable assholes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good.
Billions, man. My favorite character is Bobby Axelrod. I root for Bobby Axelrod. You're not supposed to root for
even
Bobby
his
Axelrod.
nemesis, and even his nemesis isn't completely innocent.
Correct. Yeah.
And
he's got his little
even
scummy things too.
On The Leftovers, the main character might as well be the second coming of Jesus, but on his surface is still a psychopath murderer. When you really just look at his actions.
I don't know how much I got left in the tank for this season of The Leftovers.
Dude, hang
both
in
Mandy
there.
and I
It's going to
have
pay
both-
off.
Both Mandy and I are just like, this is weird.
Yeah, but
I
if you
love
made it this far, it's the last season. You might as well hang in there.
Especially that episode, that Perfect Strangers episode. Like, what the fuck? Like, after that one, we were just both looking at each other like, what? And she loves the show. She got me into it. She's the card-carrying fan, and even she's kind of like, what's going on here?
I love that I'm trying to talk you into hanging in with it, and I gave up halfway through the first season.
I found that episode, the Perfect Strangers episode, to be great. Actually, I love Nora as a character. She's probably my favorite, and that episode told the story of where her character was at that point in her life, where it seemed like in the first episode of season 3, we saw a version of her that seemed almost like the version that we first saw, the skeptic, the stern, cold woman. We didn't see the vulnerability, and we thought maybe that she had regained some of her strength. And we see none of that's true. She hasn't progressed at all. That episode was about revealing just how broken she is inside and how much everything, her public persona is a front. So I don't know. Was it kind of weird and from left field that they used one of the actors from Perfect Strangers to tell that story? Well, yeah.
Yes.
But how is that, like, you don't know that's the show that you've been watching already? It's not. I don't think that's the weirdest thing that they've done. I mean, certainly there's been times where I'm like, where the fuck are they going with this? But I've never felt disappointed in the payoff. I don't know.
I guess
I'd stick in there. I like the Outback episode too, even though it had none of what we would consider main characters in there. It was an entire episode based around his dad, who's played by the actor whose name I'm forgetting. He also played Stick in the Daredevil series.
Lance Henriksen.
Is that his name?
He was in Near Dark. He played Bishop in Aliens. No. Scott Glenn.
No.
Scott Glenn. He was Scott Glenn played Stick, didn't he?
I thought I knew his name, but that's not sounding familiar.
Okay.
But it's getting late, guys.
One more question about shows. Have you guys watched any of the show 13 Reasons Why on Netflix?
No, but I've heard there's quite the controversy over this.
Okay. Because, everybody at work, oh my God, have you watched this show? And I'm like, no, I wasn't even aware of it until you brought it up. And then I just hear that there's a bunch of shitstorm going on around it, so...
It's 13 Reasons Why I Killed Myself, basically, right? It's a story told from somewhat of the perspective of somebody who actually killed themselves in the 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah, and she sends either letters or audio tape, or not audio tape, but you know what I'm saying, a recording.
Right.
Or letters to 13 different people for 13 reasons why. And
a voice memo.
I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Just wondering.
No, I'm probably going to check it out just to see what the fuck the fuss is about.
I think it's funny that I cut the cord on cable, and for a long time, I just didn't watch anything unless it was a movie or something that I really wanted to see, so I had to seek it out. now it's like I cut the cable cord. I have Netflix, and there's a backup of backlog of shit I need to watch on Netflix now. I'm like, damn, they got me hooked again. All they did was change the name of the shit on the bag. That's it.
Yeah, that's how it goes. America. So, Aaron, I heard you were saying it's getting late, huh? Should wrap it up.
It is, yeah. I gotta get to bed.
And 1 a.m. for you guys. So I'll just simply thank everyone who's listened and downloaded. And on ChristopherMedia.net, we are on iTunes. This was another show. Again, thank you for April. April was a record month for downloads for Unregimented. So you're out there and you're listening and you're sharing it on Facebook. You're following us on Twitter at UnregimentedPod, on Instagram at Unregimented. And yeah, you can email the show if you ever feel the need to pipe in on some of the what's the things everyone says right now, the hot takes that come from us.
Takes.
Yeah.
But thanks everybody for listening.
Oh shit! I just realized that I never responded to Dawn's question. I was gonna say, yeah, you can message us. Oh wait, it'd help if I responded to those.
Sorry, Dawn.
I'll get back to you immediately.
Yes. But thanks everybody who's been listening, and we'll catch you next week.
All right, later, guys.
Bye.
If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook by searching for Christopher Media. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Thank you in advance for supporting Christopher Media by clicking on the PayPal button and by clicking through to all the sponsors who support ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net, and thank you for listening. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
You might not think that a few simple words could make you crave McDonald's breakfast sandwiches. But if you listen closely to the sound of me saying McGriddles, McMuffin, you might be wrong. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.